Michael Jordan is a lot of things to a lot of people. He's a six-time champ. He's a six-time Finals MVP. He's a 14-time All-Star. He's a first-ballot Hall of Famer. And depending on who you ask, he is the GOAT, the greatest of all time. All of this is true, and let me give you another fact right now. He's also an alleged world-class jerk, or was, or can be. I mean, that's not breaking news right there. That's not even just an opinion that I'm running out 20 years after the fact, after he last played in the NBA. There are grips upon grips of stories that back that up. Stories that Mike himself has not denied. Stories that Mike himself has actually confirmed. Let me give you a couple examples. How about when Mike's Bulls beat Larry Bird's Pacers in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals? Larry finds Mike after the game to congratulate him, and Mike reportedly hits him with, quote, "You bitch, F you, take care. Now you can go work on that golf game of yours." I mean, that's an amazing exchange. In fact, there's nothing alleged or reported about that. That was caught on tape and aired in The Last Dance. Mike had just beaten Larry's Pacers. Larry, and it couldn't have been an easy thing to do, Larry seeks Mike out to congratulate him and pay his respects. And Mike hits him with, "Bleep you, bitch. Enjoy playing golf." To Larry Bird, no less. Who does that? Mike. That's who. Most people might say, hey, yeah, good game, much respect. Good game, good series, tough battle. You gave us all we could handle. Nice job. See you next year. All the best to the fam. Not Mike. Nope. Mike's more like, who won? You bitch. Bleep you. Go work on your golf game. Like, you're a bitch for not winning, and bleep you for even trying or thinking that you could win. The hell are you even doing talking to me anyway, B? Yeah, that's what I thought. Get the hell out of my face. So, when Kevin Garnett goes on Jimmy Kimmel's show last night and tells a story about being 19 and fresh out of high school playing Mike in Chicago, of course I'm going to believe anything that KG has to say about what that was like back then. I mean, there are a lot of urban myths surrounding the association and what may or may not have happened regarding a lot of different guys. But if somebody says something about Mike from back in the day, especially if that somebody's Kevin Garnett, I'm going to assume it's true. All right, so I've heard a lot of Jordan stories that are very similar to that one. Somebody starts feeling themselves, and they start running some junk. Jordan hears it and makes them eat every last word, makes them pay. Gary Payton, my guy the glove, was a famous victim of the exact same thing too. But here's where it gets peak Mike. Because even though Mike punished KG 25 years ago on the court, he still goes out of his way to remind him of that time every time he sees him. KG says, who walks around with content? Jordan is walking around with an entourage who have his highlights queued up to show his victims. Like Garrett Ritt ignoring his job yesterday to scour Twitter and cherry pick the one nice tweet about him just to put in front of me to read on the air. Can't believe this is how Mike rolls. But I can. It's Mike. It's the most Mike thing ever. Of course, this guy walks around with people whose only job is to be his own version of on-demand Sports Center. Except it's not Sports Center. It's Mike Center. But it's not even Mike making some lackey show Kevin Garnett the tape from 25 years ago, man. It's so much more than that. It's so much more than that. I love that part of the story where KG says whenever he sees Mike, not only does he remind him of that time that he dropped 40 on him in 3 quarters, but he palms the ticket's bald head. What is the most disrespectful thing about that? The fact that he's got somebody whose job is to have the video at the ready so we can talk more junk about something that happened a quarter of a century ago? Or the fact that he's palming Kevin Garnett's head? And remember, Mike is about a half a foot shorter than Kevin. He's got to reach up to disrespect him that way. I mean, another reason to go, right? If somebody lays a hand on you, if somebody physically touches you. He's not only physically touching KG, he's putting a palm on his bald head. If that's not a reason to go, what is? You know what that is, aside from being really disrespectful? It's the ultimate older brother move. You know, palming somebody else's bald dome. Like, Mike is just going to stick his tongue out, take off from the free throw line, and dunk KG's melon through the rim. And you know Mike would try it. But I'm not surprised by any of this. I mean, The Last Dance essentially was 10 episodes of Mike pulling up YouTube and showing the world his highlights. In fact, last week, I had Kenny Anderson on my podcast. I asked him how accurate he thought that entire docuseries was.
That's Mike, through playing against him and knowing how he was in life. That's just how he rolled. That's just what he did. He controlled his documentary somewhat. Some of the players was mad at it. Some wasn't. Some were. And, it's just tough. But you're talking about one of the best, if not the best player that ever played the game. And he won 6 championships with the Bulls. So, he could say whatever you want to say somewhat. But you don't know what's true and not true.
Well said, Kenny. It is Mike. I mean, we may not know what's true and what's not, but Mike can pretty much say and do whatever the hell he wants. He can call Larry Bird a bitch. He can palm Kevin Garnett's bald head while making him watch highlights from like 40 years ago that some crony had already locked and loaded on the off chance they ran into KG. Who's going to stop him? I'm sure Mike's got a whole list of his greatest hits on the ready, in the phone, so he can remind everybody of how he did them back in the day. Including KG. Especially KG. Guarantee if he were to happen to run into Larry, he'd have lots of highlights queued up for Larry. And Mike hasn't changed either. We all mellow out, right? None of us are the way we used to be. Mike hasn't mellowed at all. We saw that docuseries.